Welcome to our almost finished with this book study. And thank you for being here. Some people haven't been here in a while, or maybe the first time even. Welcome. I'm happy to be almost finished with this book with you. It blows my mind. We went through this thing pretty fast. It's we're looking at saying number 88 this week, the Gospel according to Thomas with Cameron McColl. And I'm trying out a new background. I hope you like it. We're launching a new webinar on August 18th for Awakening Mind Films. It's called A Mind Awake, and we're going to interview our cast and others once a month for the Awakening Mind Films and Awaken the World initiative and Center for Awakening. We're all doing that together. And so I'm very happy about that. And then for you all that are in the book study with Susan Telford, I know you had your last one with her, but where we're looking at, let's see if you can see this. I don't think you can see this book with this screen. Awake, yeah, with Angelo DeLulo. So we'll be finishing up this book starting next week. I'll be your host over there. We're going to be starting on page 310, leaving starting where you left off, and we'll be using the same format unless we come up with something different. I like the way that has worked out, and looks like it is total fun. We'll just move over and start working on the Awake book. It's really good. I've been following your classes each week in the recordings. I'm enjoying the dialogue and the content that Angelo offers. And we're also doing something different. We have a sort of a soft opening where we're going to be offering these classes or these sessions on a donation basis for people that are outside of the Evolve community. And as we move into our new year, we're setting up our what we're going to offer in the Center for Awakening community. We'll still have actually, we're going to move back to a monthly a teacher every month. And we're also going to have our sessions, like our book studies and our sessions that are with Take Another Look and with Rana and what Rana and Cindy does, and Jenny Beal, Amy Heibel. Will be offering that on a donation basis. And then our teachers will be, of course, for the member area so that we can help to pay for the cost of having all of this. That really helps. And so I'm very excited about that. Thank you all for pausing while I do that little commercial sort of a shout out for us. And we're going to start on 88. Who'd like to start? Barbara. Hi, Barbara.
Take that off. Okay, I'm back. Hang on a
Good.
sec. I just want to get this reaction off here. There, perfect. Okay, good. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Bill.
Good morning.
Okay, so 88. Do I always have to say Jesus said? I guess I do.
No, you
Well,
don't.
Jesus said in terms. I just get it better if it's the words, not him. Not that it's him, but him as a human.
Yeah, right. Yeah, whatever you want. It's good.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, Jesus said, the angels and the prophets will come to you and give to you those things you already have. And you too give them those things which you have, and say to yourself, when will they come and take what is theirs? So it says, Cameron says, you don't need anything more to be free. Everything required you possess already. Not realizing this, however, you make worldly offerings, thinking this is all you can give, and ask the Lord, when will you rescue me? When will you rescue me? In truth, happiness is available to you in every moment. This is so true, right? Like I read this one sentence 100 years ago, a long time ago. All it said is, nobody's coming for you. And it changed my life. It just changed my life because I realized I am accountable for me here now, right? Not Barb, but I'm here. Anyways, what I like about this is it's true. Like this is where I struggle. Jenny Beal and I have talked about this. Like I struggle with this in the sense that people, and it's okay whatever anybody believes or whatever, but this manifesting stuff, like everything's already here. What could you manifest? It may show up and arise in your sight, but it's already here. Everything is here. It's done. There's nothing you need to do.
Right. Well, knowing that, having an understanding and knowing that is the journey.
Mhm.
Is the journey of awakening where, we thought we were this with a name, the birth and parents and family. And it's in the recognition of our true nature when all those things dawn and life becomes a different ball game for us.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it does require, I think it does require a heart of curiosity and one that, different ways we all come here to this place.
Mhm.
Most of the people I've met around the world, uh, all the swamis, the gurus in India, the teachers, they all have a love for the teachings of Jesus,
Mhm.
and there's not one that I've met that would deny that. They may call him a prophet, and of course, the Course in Miracles, he's our elder brother, and all those different, and then others, he's quite much higher, and and yet everyone agrees, almost everyone agrees, except for the atheists. And I have great regard for the atheists because I think a lot of them are more open to the true teaching. So yeah, that having where you speak from doesn't come overnight. It's a heart that's been open and a life that's going deeper into the truth of understanding to where you come to a place where you say, can I leave Jesus' name out? Or can I, because you recognize that it's just don't, it's not necessary. And yet for some people, they really love
It
to
is.
use the name of Jesus and hold his hand, and it's helpful for them.
And I respect all that. I do. It's just
Yeah.
that it's hard when the conditioning comes off and and you got to go back into
To
conditioning.
put it
I
back
still
on.
don't know
Yeah.
how to do that. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
It's a,
apologize to anyone if I
yeah.
offend them by saying, it's not that I don't, the illuminated one of consciousness, which formed as Jesus, expressed as many,
Yeah.
expressed as each one of us. That's how I see it. But that's all. But
I think
apologize.
most of us here get that, have
Mhm.
that same feeling. And what about the angels? How are you with angels?
With angels?
It says Jesus said, "Angels and prophets will come," and I put in that because I haven't seen an angel with wings, or even the Hollywood kind that sort of pops into your into your 3D experience. I always take angels as a voice, a listening, an intuition. Some people claim that they see angels. I don't know anyone that has. I just use angels as a knowing that comes in.
Yeah.
Even in the New Testament and the Old Testament, it speaks about more almost like a dreaming happens and of the voice of God or the voice of angels. An angel said unto him, right? So that to me is divine intuition moved in your experience, and you knew it was like
Hmm.
a telepathy or something.
Well, I know that is it metaphysical people sort of they believe in angels. They some of them, it depends. I think he covered it really, like angels and prophets. So prophets would be of would come to you and give you what you already have. We have that already. This is where I'm a lot like you in that sense. The teachers, and I think they're very important. Don't get me wrong. I respect them, love them. They have absolutely, but you don't always need it. Sometimes people are led through other methods.
Yeah,
And I think the angels and the prophets will come to you and give you what you already have. It doesn't matter who comes to you, even to teach you, all they're teaching you is what you already have.
right. They're
There's
helping
you're
you
all
to
taken care of.
see through the veil. They're maybe giving even one word can be used, and you go, "Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't see that before you said that.
Yeah.
Now I see
Or
it."
many times, Bill, have you not sat there and somebody says something and you go, whoa, I knew that. I knew like,
Yeah,
yes, I knew that one. And it's not
yeah,
like I get it. I knew that.
mm,
And it's like every time I was taught, it was I already I knew that.
yeah, mm,
It would shock me. But
mm,
and maybe that's what the teacher's for is stop the shock and just go through.
right.
I don't know.
So
Anyway,
we didn't read the italicized, did we?
yep.
We,
Yeah, we did.
we did that.
And
Okay.
yeah, it says in truth, happiness is available to you in every moment, which is true.
Okay, that's right. Good.
I would say instead of every moment, I would say in the presence. I'm
Yeah.
really because I'm starting to come to a place where the now goes like the now's here, oh gone, now gone, and I think
And
the present
the Gon's not
stayed.
even here, right? The Gon
It's
doesn't
more,
belong either. At that point, there's no Gon.
yeah, exactly right. So I
Right.
think it's just
Yeah.
presence for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. I think we all unfold that way, Barbara. I think
Yeah,
we do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. And Rick, good to see you, Rick. Welcome.
Just a quick comment. I think there's good reasons Jesus talked in parables and riddles and analogies, because what he was talking about, he knew very well it was contrary to the existing faith of the time. If he would have talked very directly, he would have been at the cross or stoned a lot earlier. Okay, uh, so he had to kind of um, people didn't think in those terms. God was other. He couldn't say, you know, I am God, you are God. That's inconceivable. They didn't have the language for it. It's like it took many years for that to kind of develop. Uh, so he had to be very cautious. So none of this is really as it seems, like the word angels. I mean, angels and prophets to me it just means the teachings. Okay. Uh, you know, the messengers,
Yeah.
those that teach, will come and give you those things that really you already have. Okay, it just get pointed out to you what you
Yeah.
already are. And Cameron nails that on his first sentence. You don't need anything more to be free. It's what you already are. Um, but then he goes on and says, "You give them those things which you have." Now that's a tricky thing. Actually, that's I would argue that that's the exchange or that's the price tag. That's the prerequisite requirement. What are you willing to sacrifice or give up um, to receive this message, so to speak? Again, so to speak. What are you willing to give up? Not necessarily in terms of money or possessions, but your world. What do
Yeah.
you
Well,
really
is there anything that you're more attached to that would
Yes,
cause you to have value in
yes.
something else?
What gives you real security? And 99% of the things that need to be given up really are fall within the realm of thoughts. The things you believe, the things you think about the world, others, and especially what you think about yourself. Are you willing to give up and challenge those things? And that's a very big pill to swallow. But in the end, that's what it takes. Of course, those opinions and everything ain't going anywhere. Nothing ever disappears. They're just going to be looked at in a different light.
Yeah, it's like, what's your attachment? Is it sex? Well, is it being married? Is it your love for the person, your own personal self-identity?
Right, could be anything. It's very
whatever it is, and this is why, this is funny. This is why priests are celibate. This is why celibacy, even though it's a non-issue for a sage doesn't it doesn't matter. Have sex, don't have sex, eat this, don't eat that. I interviewed Stephen Bodian, who was he was a student of Jean Klein as Francis Lucille at the same time as Francis. And I was asking Stephen about eating meat, if he's a vegetarian. He said, I was with a sage once that said, when I pick tomatoes, they cry. So he just sort of, you know what I mean? So it's whatever you put an attachment to or a value in, and you just come unattached to that. There's no real sacrifice.
right. Yeah.
It's a release.
Right. And also, a lot of these are very cryptic. For example, Jesus could have very cryptically kind of disclosed that these messengers, these prophets, weren't realized or didn't know who they were, which reflects a lot during that period of time. There were a lot of false people claiming what Jesus was claiming. And back then, people did not question. Okay, it was blasphemy to question anything a prophet was telling you. Okay, unlike today, there was no contemplating or questioning. Everything was word of mouth. So that's a possibility as well. Very interesting. Because prophets, people considered prophets, anybody that said they were a prophet was a direct line to God. Okay. And they weren't questioned. And if they just want something you to sacrifice for their own good, like food and shelter, that's not the same thing. That's not what we're talking about giving up. They tell you some scriptures and you give them food and shelter. No, that's not what he's talking about. Things can be interpreted in many different ways.
Let's move to 89. You want to read that?
Sure. 89. 89. Jesus said, "Why do you wash the outside of the cup? Do you not realize that he who made the inside is the same one who made the outside?" Again, that seems so simple, does it not? But there's potentially also a lot there as well, like a metaphor. He stopped short of saying the inside and the outside are one, okay, and they're God. He stopped short, okay, but it's a pointer nonetheless. But he's talking about starting clues throughout the gospel here of containership. Okay, there's an inside and an outside, a containership. The outside will decay. It will decay and turn into nothing, like your body, like the cup. but the inside is eternal. Same with the Last Supper, you know, the container, the room, the cup with the blood and water is supposed to represent humanity. You know, all these little clues. You couldn't tell them directly, but all these clues that were kind of come out, that what's important is what's on the inside. Okay, is what he's telling them. Because he couldn't talk quite very directly because they didn't have the language to understand it. You know, he would have been stoned. They were looking through the lens of the Old Testament and so forth. He was far before his time, and I think he knew that. I mean, back then people were big into, you know, purifying the outside of the body, you know, baths and so forth. And he was trying to make a distinction. What's important is on the inside. The outside can be destroyed, but the inside cannot.
So let's read the italicized.
Many of us think that the external world, the outside of the cup, is all there is, and therefore dedicated to maintaining and securing our existence within. Washing the cup with knowledge, money, possessions, a fine self-image, and secure protections. In reality, we never perceive the outside of the cup. We only ever perceive the inside. We perceive thoughts, feelings, and sense perceptions, nothing more. In other words, we don't actually perceive the world. Rather, we perceive our perceptions of it. Therefore, the outside, which we think is all that's real, is not perceived at all. And the inside, whose reality we consider tenuous, is in fact all that's perceived. Both the inside and the apparent outside of the cup are God's creation. See, Jesus couldn't have told them that. There's no way. Okay, there's no way. They would have hung him from the nearest tree. Okay.
Right. Yeah. They if he would have said that, they would have killed him earlier.
Right, because what they've learned up to that day is a clear division. It was based upon authority, structure, sin, you know, guilt, being right, being wrong. You know, there was God and there was them. There was a clear division. You know, it was a clear duality. You know, and anything else would have been blasphemy. I mean, they just didn't have the, you know, they just weren't ready for that. None of them.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick. And Barbara, what do you have to add or say?
Okay, this is interesting because, okay, a lot of people, I do see that cup and the thing, but truthfully, it's consciousness he's talking about. And consciousness and existence itself, the way that they are given moment to moment, here and now, and are the same thing. This is where people, I find we all get confused. Consciousness and existence is itself. So consciousness is existence itself, and existence is consciousness itself. Together, they are our essence. Together, as one unit. And that's, I think, a lot of people start separating it out into divisional quarters. And the other thing with Jesus too, I mean, I really do, from the studies of like where he possibly could have come from India and the trade routes and all these things, and studying under gurus and masters and brahmas, he too would have spoken not parables, but in stories. We call them parables in our language, but they were stories, which the teachers today still do. They still talk to us that way. And that's where we get our knowledge from. Because then it's not them telling us, we draw from the story in our essence, in what our foundation is at that time, at that moment. So you can have 50 people in the room and there'll be 50 different ways that lands, you
Yeah.
know? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, but I do think that the cup and so as above, so below, as inward, same outside as inside. That's what that is, because consciousness and our essence, our existence itself together is life. It's all we know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all that there is. And
Yeah.
when we have the understanding that we are that, even without this, prior to this person experience, we are still that,
Correct.
without a word, without
What is it? Wherever you go, you are. There you are. There you
yeah,
go. You
yeah,
know, and that's the other thing too, is it's not about giving up, surrendering, sacrificing, because I think the closer you come to who you really are, you just become disinterested in other things. I don't think it's a matter of anything. I don't think nobody has to say, okay, I'm going to stop drinking coffee and be a better whatever. As long as you know the coffee is consciousness, it really is. As long as you know and recognize everything is consciousness, it is.
yeah,
And go about your business.
right. Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Right.
Hey, Bill, can I say something real quick?
Sure.
You know, the bottom line, non-duality, not two, right? It's all just one, with different names. That's the definition of non-duality. And in
Yes.
terms of when we say give things up or sacrifice, that's something that consciousness does. The mind can't sacrifice anything. Okay, it pretends it can. Okay, but that's just more part of the game. It's consciousness that that does it. Um,
Right. Right. It's consciousness that thinks it's a mind, that thinks it's separate from itself, that's given us a narrative that is released back
yeah,
into the thing that it always is.
it's almost like consciousness hypnotizes itself, then it dehypnotizes itself, and then it hypnotizes itself, and then dehypnot. You know,
Yeah.
it's the game. Okay,
Yeah.
hide
Yeah.
and seek. It's a
Yeah.
continuous thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the game. I'm very appreciative that it's a game that we uh, uh, children and awakening consciousness plays and never loses or leaves itself.
Yeah,
It's a better story than any of the stories out there.
yeah.
Thank you both. Okay, let's move to 90. Who would like to read 90, please? Another Jesus said sentence. I know there's only 39 of us here, so not much to choose from.
Indigo is putting up her hand.
And oh,
Gracie?
Indigo. Hi, Indigo. I didn't see your hand go up. Thank you.
Um, Jesus said, "Come unto me, for my yoke is easy and my lordship is mild, and you will find repose for yourself." So for me, it's like just come here, come here and be with me. You don't have to worry about all these things. You don't have to just come here and stay with me.
Yeah.
Just be the peace and the love that you are. Don't worry about anything else. Just come here within.
Yeah. And yeah, that me would be interpreted if they thought that Jesus was talking about come to me, the person. He was talking about come to I am, just as you said.
Um, and then it says, Many of us are prepared to pay a high price to pursue what seems like our personal destiny, our individuality, our freedom. The price comes in the form of fears and fears and desires, and the endless cycle of activity arising from our desire to achieve happiness and keep death away. We pursue, even though deep inside we know the struggle will inevitably end in failure. So we know that it's not who we are. We know it's not what we think. We know that in our heart. And then it says, for those who are prepared to surrender their apparent individuality, their belief in a personal consciousness. However, a remarkable discovery is made. We don't really give up anything at all. We find ourselves free of our fears and desires, in stillness, undiminished in any way, and we are at peace. So we love being there, even though we think it's whatever it is. When we're there, we're like, I just want to stay here.
Yeah. 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 Great. We actually give up the fear, and because it's it's a belief, or it's an identification that is relaxed, and in relaxing from the identification of the individuality, a remembering takes place, a recognition actually takes place. Yeah. Thank you, Dago. And Rick, what would you add to that?
I thought Cameron's interpretation was excellent. He's basically, the way I would word it is, he's saying, and I think his disciples were kind of relaxed and they enjoyed the environment, just being around him, quite frankly. But he's saying his yoke, in other words, his teaching, is gentle. It's not what you've been taught. It's not what you've been learned. It's not. It's not a iron chain around your neck like you've been taught by the religious authorities. That's built around religious dogma, a vengeful God, a jealous God, fear, authority, those sorts of things. It's different, and I'm not very confident they really understood what he was talking about, but they could certainly, I'm sure, felt the vibe, and was very pleasant to be in his presence, even though they really didn't understand most of what he was saying.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe a couple of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. What's amazing is that even though if you go back and you look at the Roman times when this happened, and even a few hundred years later, that was before it got real bad.
Yeah.
It went downhill from here.
Yeah.
So I'm super grateful to be in this generation where we're just, we're reading about these things, and we're not threatened by the lion's den.
Right. And almost like there's an evolutionary role, it just took time for man's development to, to understand. I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick. Hi, Sandra.
Hello.
Hello.
When I read this, I just felt this surge of joy that came through, because it just speaks directly to the heart. And perhaps Rick is right that they may not have understood, but I think their hearts knew. Their hearts responded in a way that made them follow him.
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't get all the language we use today about duality and non-duality, but I just can imagine this beautiful presence speaking to you and looking at you and saying, and your heart just explodes. And to me, I love Cameron's interpretation also. And I wanted to say, he says, we're undiminished in any way, and we are at peace. And what came into me was, it's more than being undiminished, it's being enhanced. It's being like you come into this encounter with this presence that's so awe-inspiring and so amazing and beautiful. And then looking out on the world, you see everything differently. And it's so much more than words can express, I guess.
Yeah.
But there's this, you don't lose anything, that's true. Nothing is lost. It's like a relief to know that all this I've been doing, I don't need to do anymore. But then there's also this other unspoken power that comes, a source of wisdom, a source of just pure love.
Yeah.
So
You
yeah,
get a little bit of a sense of that in that movie called The Chosen. You can sort of get a little bit of a feeling for that. They make that guy just a regular guy for the most part.
it's like even today when you hear a teacher or you read something that, wow, I know that's true. There's this knowingness inside,
Yeah.
and it's so joyful.
Yeah.
It makes everything else not important.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I feel that way a lot in these interviews that I do for Awakening Mind Films, because I would say, 99%, these are realized beings like many here but they're very articulate and very mature in sharing from that place. And I have that feeling when this big guy, you'll see him in one of the films coming up. His name is Muktananda. He's about 7 feet tall. He's so big. And when I finished interviewing him last year in Rishikesh, I just wanted to give him a hug. And you're not supposed to touch those guys. You're supposed to, like, sort of be, this ashram swami, give them, like, you're not supposed to touch them. But I just got to touch him. I say, I want to give you a hug. He let me give him a hug. My head came to his chest. He was so big. But anyway, I just loved where he was coming from. He was talking about, what happens after the body mind leaves, the energy leaves the body suit, and how it goes back into the ocean of consciousness. And if there was residual karma that was left over, that was still there, he was describing how it goes back into the ocean of consciousness. And then later on, it would just bubble up as a new wave into consciousness and coming back into another incarnation. And so that was really, but all of those interviews, Jan Fraser was another one. She made me think I was with Jesus, and I just, she's just so authentic in who she is. And many of these others that I could say that about most of them. And it felt like it felt like the experience of what it must have been like to be with Jesus. I felt that way with Muji when I first met Muji. Yeah.
So it's not just the words.
No.
They may be articulate, they may be inarticulate, that isn't what matters. What matters is the presence.
Yeah.
And
It's here.
in that presence,
It's here too. It's not
yes,
here. It's
yes.
here when someone is illuminated and moved in spirit by the recognition of the truth revealed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what all I wanted to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Rick.
That was very nice. Just a comment. I think this is a great example. It's like Jesus correcting them without directly telling them. Okay, because they can't understand the concept of a source or the concept of a present moment. They're trying to validate what they think they know from Scripture. They say to him, "Oh, tell us who you are, so we can believe in you." Okay, and Jesus said, "You read the face of heaven and earth, but you have not recognized the one who stands before you, and you do not know this moment." In other words, he's saying you recognize the world, material things. You can look at the sky and know if it's going to rain tomorrow or what have you. But you don't recognize the one before you, even though I'm saying all these things. And like she said, the nonverbal aspect of it. Not only do you not recognize me, the one, you don't know how to read this moment. They were trying to validate, a truth outside themselves. Okay, something outside themselves. They're, how are you special? Because in the Bible, it's often overlooked. Ministers and everything will always say Jesus was the light of the world. Many more times in the Bible, Jesus said, "You are also the light of the world," and that just kind of glossed over. Okay, and there's a fine example, because they wish to confirm their expectations, their stories. What's your specialness? What makes you special? So again, they couldn't comprehend them, but Jesus is correcting them without telling them directly, just saying, "You're wrong about these things and you need to contemplate." He couldn't directly tell them direct pointers. It just wasn't possible in the time, I believe. But he's correcting them, saying, "No, you're not getting it." And they had to be pretty puzzled.
Yeah, lost. So you want to read the italicized? You're muted.
How's that?
There you go.
Conventional beliefs are taken to be facts without the necessary supporting evidence. As such, they are without substance or value and preclude clear seeing. When we know something to be true, it's because we recognize the truth in it, not because we have been told to believe it. It is as if we already knew it to be true, but had simply obscured the fact. Because they do not recognize the truth which Jesus speaks, they say, "Tell us who you are," and ask for other reasons to believe in him, like to quell their doubts, like show us a miracle. Then Jesus says, "And you do not know how to read this moment?" What he means is you don't understand the significance of the now, of this very moment. Past and future are neither remembered or imagined, but now is the only reality. It contains everything. He couldn't tell them, "You are the now." There is no past. There is no future. Those are abstract thoughts. That just would have, they would have walked away. you are the now. There's no time. Time now is eternal. It's vertical. There's no past. There's no future. He couldn't explain that to him, and that went on for many centuries. That's why humanity, instead of going within for the most part, came up with all these mythologies and myths and all kinds of things to help describe these mysteries rather than going toward what Jesus is trying to convey,
Yeah.
materially.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Thank you, Rick. And Barbara, would you like to add something to that?
I have a question.
All right.
So if any one of us walked out of our house today and we called all of our friends that aren't sharing this in this, what is it called, light-mindedness? Yeah. Okay. So like that. Okay. So now they're just your friends, and you group them all together, and you all sit them in a room, and you talk to them as Jesus talked to his disciples. Would it be the same today? Because everybody's kind of getting caught in what Jesus has said and how his disciples could have taken it. The world today still does. It's the message. It's the way it is.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me laugh, is it doesn't matter. And Jesus was a master, a guru, a Brahmin, a whatever he was here, as many masters are. But that's not people. It's the message, and I find it fascinating because we divide consciousness into personal, and he says that into personal consciousness in the other one, in the last one. And it's true, because coming to terms with our existence, I am is existence, right? And consciousness is that life force together. It cannot be separated. And so there is, and as far as any of this, I mean, I couldn't talk to many of my friends of this. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They'd look at me like I had three heads. They just, they're not there. They're not right. And that's okay. I love them where they are. And my husband doesn't follow this. I love him where he is, so I think in Jesus's time and this time, it's the same. War is the same. Nothing has changed. Nothing's evolved. I mean, it's like our brains didn't get bigger and smarter. It's not like that. I don't believe at all. And if like other groups will say, oh, well, look at everybody's getting our message because it's growing so much. We're getting so many more people doing this. But that's not what consciousness is. Consciousness is all that together, one happening. And I think when we there's no us and there's no other and there's no them, that's the world. That's the outside meeting the inside.
Right. And yet we're doing this because consciousness is realizing itself in in a physical way, in a relevant way, and it's speaking to itself as itself. It's coming online to recognize itself even in form.
Yeah, it's all.
And it seems to be, 8 billion and a gazillion bugs and stuff, but there's consciousness is coming online in humanity in a cogent way. And we don't have there's no history that describes this experience that's happening right now. And yet we're not even here.
But yeah, exactly. That's my question. Like, if does consciousness evolve, or consciousness is, or is it our belief as a person, as a mind body, believes it needs to be more?
I'd like to offer something.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't have my video on because I'm in my nightgown, sorry. I was once on a Rupert Spira retreat, and I asked him the very same question you just asked: does consciousness evolve? And he said, and I'm not saying I understand this, I'm just passing along what what Rupert Spira said. He said consciousness doesn't evolve. He said, but people's behavior does. What do you
I
think
don't know
about
that I would
that?
agree with Rupert in that statement because uh, uh, c- everything is consciousness, and consciousness is experiencing itself. I feel like he's kind of right. Consciousness doesn't evolve, and yet, in a relative sense, it seemingly does awaken from its forgetting. It seemingly
Oh,
awakens from to the recognition that it's always is.
all right. That's the key word that you said. Now I understand it. On a relative sense, it does seem to. Oh, now I get it. I didn't get it when he said it. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
Bill. That was real clear for me. Really clear.
good. Thank you, Michelle. And Carol, what would you add to that?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I love what Barb said, Barbara. And I'm not sure if I took something different from what she meant, but the teachings and the teachers and all of these stories, they're all from and within consciousness. The story of evolution and consciousness progressing, that's part of the realm of the truth recognizing itself and being creative, whatever, that's still a concept. But it's not all of this is. Even as they're speaking right now, that's part of it too. There's just the knowing or the I guess awareness or consciousness, love, whatever it is. And it seems to want to, there's an energy, there's something that seems to want to, I don't know, manifest itself and not just be, but share. I don't know. I can't
Yeah,
really
it
talk.
shares itself as itself. It knows itself as itself. It manifests itself in form, never leaving its infinite self. It's amazing. Really, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And we are that of consciousness recognizing itself as itself. It takes, I mean, it can take your breath away.
Yes.
It's just remarkable. Thank you. Thank you, consciousness. This is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I say that now, if I was in a prison, I would be coming from a different place. I mean, in a cell, if I was a bad person, those guys who wake up in the prison cells, if they come to that place, same thing. Thank you. Oh, this is so great. I can stay here. I'm good now. Yeah.
Yeah. Something that we were reading earlier, I'm not sure which one it was, but even, the story of the followers of Christ or Muhammad or whomever that didn't understand, but they realized. And it's not even understanding. There's nothing to understand. I mean, we think for a time there's, oh, I get this, but that's still not the same thing as experiencing, because the understanding can't be, it's just a limitation. It almost adds boundaries to the infinite
temporary, I think.
expression.
Understanding helps the mind that thought it was separate to relax from that fixed identity.
Yeah, I love that. When you said that earlier today, you used that word relax. Never heard that before. And that's true. It's like the apparatus can relax. All of it can relax so that whatever it is just knows and doesn't even need to figure anything out.
Yeah. Inner peace just reveals itself as itself, and it's like, okay, this is good. I could stay here as inner peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, Rick.
Just very quickly, a point. I think we need to be very cautious when we talk about consciousness, because consciousness, of course, that's just a word. But the fact of the matter, it cannot possibly be described. It's impossible. It has no beginning, has no end, has no borders, has no limitations. It's not objective. How can it possibly be described? Okay, there are certain attributes that we can that are certain. So part of it's a language problem. It doesn't evolve. Okay, it doesn't change. It can't be altered. Now, it's confusing when we say, well, everything's consciousness and there's such a thing as evolution. Well, evolution is a manifestation of consciousness.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not consciousness pure, so to speak, is one way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But consciousness is unimaginable. Even the word is insulting, but we have to use words. But it can't change. It can't evolve. And it can't even be imagined because it has no limitations. There's nothing objective about it. It can't evolve. Yet everything is consciousness. Energy is a manifestation of consciousness. Okay. So it's the source. And of course, form has limitation. So we just have to be careful, mixing and matching it, because it's so easy to just say, consciousness is this and that. But when it comes right down to it, we don't know what it is. It can't be known. It can be experienced in different ways, but it can't possibly. How can something non-objective be known? No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah, I've heard Rupert say that. I've heard Ken Wapnick say that. God doesn't even know about this place. Well, what does that mean? Well, God is this place. Well, he's talking about the absolute is only the absolute.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can say
nothing else.
And
yet everything.
Product of the absolute.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you, Rick.
Yep.
And thank you, everyone. We'll just stop right there and we'll pick up on 92 next week. And if you're here, if you're in this email list, you'll be getting an invitation to join us for Awake by Angelo DeLullo. And I'll be starting that next week. In Susan's place, we'll be picking back up on page 310 in this book. And you're welcome to join us over there. And I'll see you all next week. Thank you, everyone. Oh, wait a minute. There's something in the chat. What's in the chat? Okay, got it. Thumbs up. Careful. Good.